Tim?
Hello.
Oh my God, hi! This is my first time doing like a live with someone, so I'm like, I hope it works.
Is it really?
Yes, it is. I'm not as cool as you, Tim.
Stop. Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm loving this. What is this? How do you pronounce this?
Sadaf.
Sadaf. Okay.
Sadaf. Can you see me okay?
Yeah, can you see me?
Yes, I can see you perfectly.
Cheers.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Top of the day to you.
I know, you're like, I love morning with Jack. I'm like, it's afternoon, actually.
Morning somewhere.
Yeah. Okay, so as people are joining, maybe give like a quick,
Sure.
2 sentences.
So I'm Tim, founder of Imperial. We're importer, distributor of kitchen cabinetry and bathroom furniture, and we have a showroom on the Hudson waterfront in Edgewater, New Jersey. Our specialty is European modern, and we're the new kids on the block. We're going on about 2 years.
Cool. Awesome. All right, tell everybody what you're drinking really quickly. Which tea you've decided.
Brought to you by Jaclyn, the Sadaf Earl Grey special blend. Let me see your mug game. I need to make sure your mug game is on point.
So mine actually has my logo on it, but you can't see it because the tea is like...
Okay, you got me.
Yeah.
You got me.
I'm surprised you don't have a branded mug. I have to get you one.
Touche.
All right, so we're just going to get right into this because, this is going to be quick. So I sent Tim a bunch of questions about modern kitchen design, and I shared them with you guys in stories before. We're going to rapid fire through a Q&A at the end. So if you have some questions, just drop them in through the chat. But here we go. So tea with Tim at Imperial. What's the fastest you can do a kitchen, and what factors contribute to long lead times for kitchens?
The fastest you can do a kitchen, like outside of going to Home Depot and picking them up off the shelf, would be RTA. Yeah. That's ready to assemble. So that's essentially IKEA approach. You get a cabinet flat boxed, and if you're handy or if you're working with a contractor that's / carpenter, you can whip these up fairly quickly, and you can have a kitchen up and running in a week or two because it only takes a few days to get those.
Cool.
Now the opposite is what would take the longest lead time is, your location in relation to the factory you're working with, what kind of cabinets that you ended up, doing with. So we have, lines that are upwards of 3 months. So, and as quick as, 1 to 2 weeks.
Wow.
So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Current trends or asks that you're getting right now from your customers. Like, what are people really into right now? And the second follow-up question to that I just got through one of the chat functions was, what things are you seeing kind of like fade away from kitchen design, or trends that are fading away?
Okay. I mean, top of mind, I'll do the second one first. I think the white and blue. I think, in my opinion, was like the quickest, trend that was like, it came in and out, really quickly. Other than that, nothing really kind of sticks. But the things that we see people asking, again, we do a lot more modern. So we don't have people that are very daring, if you will. They're not going to be doing greens and all kinds
like
of...
me.
Right, yeah. What do you say, the bohemian chic? What do you...
Yeah. Modern bohemian, yeah.
But mixing colors is a big one for us. And the new thing that we've been doing is obviously just reversing everything. So if normally a two-tone kitchen would be dark cabinets on the bottom, light on top, now we would, flip that around and put dark on the top, light on the bottom.
Yeah.
And another layer that we've been doing a lot is mixing door styles. So, we would have a like an integrated handle, C-channel around, and then flat door, push open or something as the uppers. Or we've done, like a tiny little beaded, almost like a shaker, if you will, frame cabinet, and with a flat gloss as well. Or, shaker with a flat panel walnut. So that's, I think, is the biggest. And then outside of looks, like functionality, is really just accessories. Try to load up the kitchen as much as you can.
Yeah. You guys do a lot of like wood grain too, like mixing wood grains together, right? Or yeah. Okay.
Yeah, wood grain is hot because, everyone is going kind of back, I guess, to the basics. And on the modern, you're seeing that as well. So in New York, you have these 10, 15, $20 million penthouses, and we kind of try to emulate, and that's our like the guiding star, if you will, because those are
Yeah.
world-known designers that they're hiring to do these. So we're like, they must be doing it for a reason. People like it. And we do see a lot of natural wood, a lot of walnut. Not so much, the dark gray faux looks, more so the closer to natural as you possibly can if we're talking laminate. And then obviously if it's like a real wood veneer, then it's exotics usually, right? Rift cuts, walnuts, and things like that.
I know, I love my walnut mix.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. We've been doing a lot of natural walnut lately. Where it's got like the stain kind of factor missing from.
Yeah. I love that with like a nice creamy white now too, especially in the transitional or like new traditional kitchens. I feel like I'm coming out of my color, even though I love my green kitchens, I'm coming out of my like color obsession, and we're moving towards like a lot of wood grains with like a creamy white, not a white, but a creamy white. So
yeah, a lot of people asking for cream for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, question number 3. What is something you think is critically important in a kitchen or kitchen design?
For like a designer, well, for both, I guess, for a designer or homeowner, is
for homeowner,
homeowner and the designer both need to kind of make sure that the end user is considered the most, right? Mm-hmm. Outside of budget, outside of style, outside of all of that before. First thing, we approach it is we try to extract all the necessary information, as much as we possibly can to create, the most personalized experience, an outcome as we possibly could, right? So, and today we have all the technology and gadgets and customizations in place to give people literally one-off products. And I think that's what it starts with, right? Because if you're going to spend all that money, you might as well make it for you.
Sure.
Unless you're, reselling in a couple of years, and then that's different.
Yeah.
And, I think that obviously outside of measurements and things like that, but on the aesthetic is balancing color, and balancing symmetry and geometry, right? So not to have like a 48-inch door next to like a 9-inch door, right? It's, it's like really throw off the scale.
Totally. Question number 4. What are some major mistakes you see people making in kitchen design? You just talked about like having this giant door next to something a little bit smaller. Like I know measurements in kitchens are key, and you guys do like elevations and renderings and things like that to make sure people at least can like visualize something before it goes, to production. But what are some like major things that people just get wrong in a kitchen?
I think they rush, right? Mm-hmm. And the rushing kind of just tips everything else over. So even if there's a lot of good and knowledgeable professionals in place, when you rush the process, no matter what that is, you're asking for problems. And it's like, even the best heart surgeon in the world, if you rush him, he could make a mistake.
Sure.
So that's 1. And 2, having too many like cooks in the kitchen. So there might be an interior designer that might not have the best relationship with the kitchen designer. And everyone's kind of trying to like, point out their own voice, and they want to be heard. And that confuses the end consumer. So by the time it gets to them, they're really confused and overwhelmed.
Right.
So the one thing is
too many choices.
Yeah.
And too many people. Yeah. Opinions.
Yeah. Clear the air first, and then just don't rush. Really make sure that you compare apples to apples when you're shopping around. You're familiar with the process. Yeah. You have the people in place. More so, like the design, that's easier now, right? We have Pinterest House and all these tools in place. Mm-hmm. But the installation, we cannot stress enough, because we've seen $100,000 kitchens look completely butchered. And then we've seen stock cabinetry that's, flat boxed, was installed by someone who's really good at what he does, and it looks like a custom kitchen. So, for sure.
So would you argue like the finishes really, like it doesn't really matter import versus, a kitchen made in the USA or anything like that, or brand? It's really comes down to like the installation details? Or would you argue that like you should really be starting with product?
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, raw material, the quality of it and the hardware is still, needs to be compared apple to apples. I just mean that, like, to your point of what one mistake people can avoid is to make sure that their installer is as good as as he or she could possibly be.
Yeah.
But I think the quality, it's really relative to budget. The one thing that we hate to see people do is overspend on brand alone, because those days are over. And the hardware and the finishing process and the construction has been commoditized. You know, and we see a lot of what we see a big trend is a lot of boutique factories, you know, opening up. So this factory that might be only doing 100 cabinets a day can produce an amazing product equal to a factory that's doing 8,000 cabinets a day. But that factory has, you know, tremendous overhead and marketing costs, and you're going to pay for all that.
Right.
So the one thing today, that game is kind of, it's up in the air. Like, you really got to do your research and like get down and dirty. And that's what I mean about not rushing to the last point. Yeah. Because a lot of people just think it's a cabinet, right? It's just a box. What could go wrong? Yeah. But there's, you know, really cheap hardware and,
it's,
you know.
So not just a box.
Exactly. You know, things peel and discolor. Right. And we've seen kitchens that might have miscolored doors and they were done at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy the variability that you experience, like just brand to brand, but also like within brand. That could be pretty nuts, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, question number 5. What are some cool new products you see coming out that are the next thing in kitchens, and what are some features that you find to just be like an absolute waste of money for people?
Well, features, I don't know that would be a waste of money, because features are usually like accessories and stuff. And those are very marginal. You know, they're very small investments, right? They're a couple $100 here and there. I think investing in maybe pantries loaded up with rollouts that cost $3,000-$4,000 and not really using them, right? And that's because maybe the designer and the homeowner didn't communicate thoroughly and they just thought it would be a good idea. But outside of that, I don't think there's, you know, again, today, because you have so many levels of price points, it's not like you're going to get gouged no matter what.
Right.
Like, if you're looking at a $10,000 kitchen, chances are that same layout you could do at 8, 7, 6, 5.
Right.
Whereas 10 years ago, it would be like 15, 10, 5. You know, huge gap. So I think today there's really, I don't think people waste money on features. They waste money on brand, overpaying for brand and appliances.
Interesting. Okay, because one of my questions for you, I don't even know if it's, what number is it on? Okay, you're good with this. So you led me to my next question, which was your least and your favorite appliance brands. You're so good. See, you know, you're trained. You're training me. Yeah, your least and your favorite and your least favorite appliance brands, because I always get clients who they always ask me for recommendations, and I find sometimes, like, I have Jenn-Air, and I freaking can't stand my entire appliance suite. I mean, it's fine, but we got it for quite a big discount because we went to a designer forum and they actually offered us 50% off, which was like just for designers only. You could only buy 8 appliances under that discount. So we were like, oh, we're going to go top of the line. We're going to go Jenn-Air. And I don't feel like the money that we would have spent retail, it was like a $20,000 appliance package. I just don't think that we would have seen that benefit come back after that. So what are some of your thoughts on appliance brands and what you like and don't like?
Oh man, I mean, appliance is something that I swore that I would never even get into. We don't get into. I try not to even talk about it, but I have to, right? Because
too late.
I mean, like, in business, right? Every day, because clients are like, the next step after you is the appliance guy, Tim. What do you recommend? You know, and they ask my team all the time.
Yeah,
I'm super frustrated with the appliance industry market overall, because there's like this humongous gap, and brands like Jenn-Air are taking opportunity of it and are kind of positioning themselves like sort of like, hey, we're the very much of a upgrade than the, you know, the lower end brands, but we're not the Sub-Zeros and the Wolves and the, you know, and the other companies, the higher end companies of the world. And I think that it's not as good as it could be for the price point, to your point. But for us, you know, I don't have personal experience with appliances, so I can't really like bash any of them. But I think we love, as far as fitment and how they work with cabinetry, Gaggenau, Miele, and Jenn-Air has been a popular one. But I mean, Sub-Zero and Wolf, obviously, that goes without saying. But Jenn-Air's been coming up a lot more and more. But what we've seen is anyone who looks at Jenn-Air usually steps right over it, and it ends up in like a Bosch or something like that, because they realize, or they might come across an appliance dealer that really educates them, and they're like, you're kind of overpaying for this. It sounds like you're on a tight budget. So why don't you take this $2,000 and put that towards the quartz countertop that you could barely afford, right? Yeah. And now you're no longer in granite or whatever. So I think that's where a lot of people overspend.
Yeah.
I mean, the projects we do. We have clients spend $15,000-$20,000 on refrigerators alone.
Right. Well, so I just saw Excellent Remodeling Inc. He's on, and he's actually joining me in another Tea with the Trade, and he said, let them decide, which is, I think, your point, and also for me, like.
Exactly. And it's like, it's a game of like numbers. It's like car dealerships when you go to appliance places. I have like such a bad taste in my mouth when I hear appliances. So.
I know, and I feel like there's not that many. There's like maybe one or two appliance places that are like have a decent showroom, and at least places where you can try, you can go to like a cooking display or something like that and you can try them out. And I know in New York, they've got quite a few of like the big brands on display where you can actually cook with them. And I always recommend like bring your dishes and try the dishwasher because it's very personal. So it can get tough to recommend. Cool. Sure. All right, we're at number 7. Oh my God, we're almost done.
Well, wait, I totally forgot a question about like what the new trends.
Okay.
Modular kitchens, I think, and interchangeable. So we saw that in Europe a few years back, and we're seeing that slowly make its way into Canada. And usually, that means that it might be right around the corner here on the modern side only.
Can you back up really quick and just tell everybody, like, give someone
modular kitchen?
What is a modular kitchen?
Yeah. Okay, so in Europe, there's like a 75% chance when someone does an apartment, let's say 5-10 years ago, that they are going to take not only their furniture with them, but the kitchen as well. Because in Europe, the way you buy spaces is normally just very raw, and you're just getting like walls. You might not even have cabinetry. So the concept came from there, but if you really think about it, it's kind of smart, right? The only issue with that is if it's not the same layout, right, you're kind of screwed.
Right.
So these companies that are now coming into the United States, they're essentially RTA, ready to assemble, and they have pre-made boxes. So they're giving you, the 12, 15, 18, 7, whatever, right? And they have different style doors and panels and things like that, all pre-made that you could just quickly interchange. So if you needed to add or take off, there's more than likely that you'd just be able to do that. So you could save probably, more than 50% of your kitchen. So I don't think that's very close in the United States yet because we just don't live that way. But I do see a huge trend of people buying IKEA cabinets, and then all these companies popping up, right? And just they make amazing laminate European lacquer, wood veneer, stainless steel, whatever you want kind of door, and you have a because you really again it's been commoditized.
Right.
So if you're in the middle here and you're not at the high end, you're paying for the door and hardware. That's it.
Right.
When you're at the high end, you're paying for the factory, the quality control, the top-notch material, the top-notch glue, the edge banding machines, the laser cutting. So everything is that much better and tighter. Yeah. But I think that will be a huge one in where we are.
Yeah, I think that's crazy. A modular kitchen that you could just take. No one takes their kitchen with them. I don't know. Not one person I know has ever taken their kitchen with them.
Yeah, and I thought it was the craziest thing ever. 2 years ago when we were in Spain visiting a factory, they were like, yeah, that's normal. You would just call the guy who you got the kitchen from. He gives you a couple more cabinets and then, your kitchen is back up and running. I was like, that's amazing.
So then a question, because now we're a little bit off on a tangent, but with these modular kitchens, are they installed in a particular way where they can just
Yeah.
So is it like a system?
So they hang on these rails, right? And they just get secured one to another, and they only get secured to the rail. So this way, you're not going to have all these gazillion holes. So they're just installed differently, and that's why I don't think that's going to be here yet because you can't change our carpentry industry in America.
Right.
And that's why they come with the legs, right? Adjustable legs for height, and you're not getting a box. So another genius thing they did is that, kitchen designers make the mistake all the time, or contractors when they order kitchen, left hinge, right hinge, right? It's a common mistake.
Yeah.
This is a box without toe kick. So if you ordered it left hinge by accident, you can just flip it around, and it's now right hinge, and you just put the legs right under it. And so it's these little things that Europeans are just good at. Yeah.
I think that's your next venture.
No, I'm not looking to reinvent the wheel. Not at all.
That's awesome, though. All right. So we talked about favorite appliance brands. Where do you find a lot of your clients like spend a lot of their money within the kitchen? Or at least where do you recommend clients spend in the kitchen? And then where would you recommend clients save and things that they don't really need to like spend money on in the kitchen?
Yeah, I mean, the two places I think are the same, where you spend and where you could look for savings, because everything else is very marginal. So it's cabinets and appliances.
Okay.
Backsplash on average, right? Even if you have a humongous home, it's not a huge dent in the overall budget. You know, it's a tiny little dent. Countertop, that goes without saying, because you have an X amount of counter space, and that is a very commoditized industry rather. And, you know, everyone's going to be like this close in price. Silestone, Caesarstone, Cambria. So you're not going to have these huge incremental jumps. So these jumps are on the appliance and the cabinet side only. You know, like we do New York City kitchens. The apartment size does not change, but the address in the building does. So with the same size kitchen, we do for $3,500 stock cabinetry. You know,
amazing.
We've also done for $35,000. You know, and that's just cabinetry only. So some might say, "Wow, that client really overspent." I would agree. You know, they could have gotten that for $10,000 and still had a great kitchen. But there's a fine line between splurging and everything else. So if you're just kind of like on the budget and you're going into this on the budget, you just can't get caught up in brands. When you walk into kitchen dealers, you know, don't let them get you carried away with like, oh man, you know, this guy and this brand and they're so big and they've been around for so long. Do your research, compare apples to apples, like read what people are saying, you know. You know, like actually I was talking to someone who just launched a ready to assemble company, and I was like, how are you guys gonna combat all the pain points? And he goes, we just look at the competition and look at their bad reviews, and our customer service department just studies that. So we're ahead of the game. And I was like, that's pretty smart.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's what I recommend homeowners to do, is to really like read personal experiences versus what the salesperson is telling you, and make sure you're comparing apples to apples. And same thing with appliances.
Yeah.
And you need to be really educated on them, because if you're looking for features, they're all going to have very similar. If you're looking for quality and a wish list item and a nice have, then you're going to have to, spend a lot more for a Miele, a Gaggenau, or you know, a Wolf or something like that.
I feel like Miele is one of the highest rated appliance brands. I just hear like really good things about them from even interior designers too. When we looked up our reviews for Jen Air, they don't have great reviews. So
they're still new. And I think people have buyer's remorse because of the price point. So you might have like a poisoned review kind of out there. But Miele is probably my favorite, and we've been working with it for 5 years now, and love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love it. Okay. So this is one of our last questions, and then we get into some of these rapid fire Q&As. So if anybody has any questions for Tim while you're on, please let us know and we'll answer them too. Tell me about your dream kitchen. I know it's very different than mine.
Right. My dream kitchen actually has an address.
Does it? Okay.
You might know the building, 432 Park Ave.
Yeah.
Building, really tall. So there's a penthouse. Precisely, it's 92B. That's unit 92B.
I'm writing it down.
It's that specific. Yeah, you can look it up. I believe it was designed by Kelly. I can never pronounce her last name. Bayhoun, something like that. And it's basically just, New York modern at its finest, and elegance and contemporary and timeless, kind of all wrapped in one. And that's like mixing flat cold with really warm and rich. And it's kind of like a galley. So the back wall is these like no handle gloss, either like off-white, white lacquer. Okay. And the island is like a walnut, and the countertops match and everything. And I believe it's on like a natural wood chevron floor all throughout the apartment.
What kind of countertop is it?
I think it was like a grayish stone. Okay. Yeah.
Are you a quartz guy or a real stone guy or a porcelain guy? What are you into for countertop?
I mean, my true love is marble. Is definitely like exotic marble. Yeah. But practicality, always peeks its head in, and I think it's quartz, obviously. Porcelain,
What about quartzite?
Quartzite, I haven't done much at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the porcelain one, that I would love to do more of if, the fabrication costs and industry knowledge and everything kind of caught up to everything.
Yeah. So full disclosure, we have Sapien Stone. It's a porcelain countertop. I love it and adore it. Anthony is like on the fence about it. So obviously like porcelain has an issue with like the I don't want to say cracks on the edges, but like, yeah, chips on the edges. So there's like a few like very minuscule, like you wouldn't even really notice it unless somebody pointed it out. But my husband is very like he'll look at the countertop like this, like every day. Yeah. And so it just bothers the heck out of him. So, that's.
Yeah, and that was done by the best guys in the game.
Yeah. Faithful.
The tri-state area. So that speaks to something, and I'm all about hype and the new thing, and you know that, I've gotten on a plane blind a few times just to learn about hype, but you have to be practical, and we as professionals we can't just stand there and be like, yeah, sure, try it, why not? It'll look great on my Instagram.
Right.
I have to let them know about these things, and I have to be honest.
Right.
And, I think it's just not there yet. Porcelain is just not there, and I think Neolith is going to strike really hard right now. I think you've seen Jimmy, right, from Sapien Stone shifted. He's a Neolith now.
Yeah, he needs a move.
Shout out to James. And I think they're gonna see this opportunity that there is a demand, but there's a huge gap between like how do you get it installed successfully, and then like educate the fabricator and get the price point down. Still a huge gap.
Yeah, I think for me, like porcelain's awesome because I am such a messy cook when I do cook. I hate to cook, but when I do cook, like I leave everything on the countertops. I mean, I left wine, I left everything that could possibly stain a countertop on my countertops, and it's just a simple like swipe, and it's super easy to clean, and I love that. But you can get that with other things. But I remember like you did a little kind of display where you had like a piece of the porcelain and a piece of quartz, and you left ketchup on it, I think, right? Like ketchup and mustard. And it did actually take the finish off a little bit, which I thought was interesting. So I think it works for me from a functional perspective, but you do have the issue of the chips or scratches or whatever, depending on if how you take care of your countertops. So
for sure.
Yeah. For sure. Okay. So, Mimi and Hill, they had asked, can you reintroduce him for those of us that just joined? So, this is Tim from Imperial Kitchen and Bath. Tim, do you want to give your little one-liner really quick?
Sure, yeah. We're an importer distributor of kitchen cabinetry and bathroom furniture. We have a showroom located on the Hudson waterfront in Edgewater, New Jersey. Our specialty is European modern. And me in here just talking about modern kitchens and talking crap about appliance companies that are overpriced.
And drinking Sadaf tea. Oh, you can kind of see my logo.
Sponsored by Downtown Decorating.
Sadaf today. All right, so we had a couple of quick questions that came through in the sticker, so we can go through those really quickly. All right, so Clark & Co. had asked, and you and I, full disclosure, I had to Google what this was. Are dirty kitchens and scully kitchens here to stay? So, we're in the tri-state area in New Jersey, New York, this area. I don't think scully kitchens and those dirty kitchens so that's like a separate area where you can prep and do dishes. That's not very, prevalent here. I don't know if you've ever worked on one.
Yeah, I think we have very, very tiny pockets, and we've done less than one hand of projects like that. It's in pockets of the Village, Soho, Tribeca, Gramercy, and Brooklyn, where you'll have these artsy kind of influenced clients, and they love that, right? They want it to be all kind of out in the open. They want it to feel like a chef's kitchen, and so I have seen that, but I didn't even know what that was when you said it.
Yeah, I think they're amazing.
Yeah, it looks good.
So I would think, if I could have I would love a separate area. I have seen in some older homes, really big pantries that can kind of function as that, where they've got some beautiful storage up top. And then there's an area for an extra dishwasher, maybe another under cabinet fridge, something where you don't have to put all of your stuff in the kitchen. So, Clark & Co. Yeah. So to Clark and Go Home, thank you for the question. I would love to have a Scully kitchen. So someone had asked this question: when you design a range hood exhaust that exceeds 400 CFM, do you add a makeup air system? Do you happen to have the answer to that?
Yeah, so to my knowledge, I believe you have to, and I don't know if this is different state by state, but the contractors that we work with, from what I understand, you do, but I'm not sure. If I just recently had a conversation with a builder, and he said that was recently increased because if there's just, I'm assuming, a huge demand for a bigger CFM, and it's something that's just such a pain in the butt to like constantly having to do that. Some older homes, not enough clearance.
Right.
So I believe you do now, but it may be at a higher CFM threshold.
Yeah, I don't know what ours was, but we didn't need a makeup air system, and I think it also depends on your county and your inspector, because we were told like we may or may not. It depends on what we're required to do by the inspector. So
building codes vary for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. So the functional space had asked this. She's actually based out of Tampa. I don't know if she's still on, but she says, in smaller condos and apartment units, how do you incorporate space for pantries?
Someone said, how do you handle an island cooktop? Pantries. Oh, I mean, New Yorkers don't have that luxury. They don't, we don't know how to spell the word pantry. We have to, we have to get very creative. We design vertically, and we utilize every square inch that we can. Sometimes we get extremely lucky, and there is maybe an 18-inch or 12-inch pocket that you find that a client is willing to sacrifice the counter space of, but that is a constant give and take. And we found that more than often, that battle is lost to counter space. Because again, in New York City, we're talking, if you can gain this much, that is a huge win for you.
Right.
And a lot of people just don't really kind of think about that. So when we show clients the renderings, they're like, you know what, that pantry kind of overpowers everything else that I have. Let's cut it out. I'd rather have a countertop space. Maybe I could put my blender there instead of having it in the pantry. It's a good looking appliance anyway. But yeah, we really don't get lucky. And sometimes when we do brownstones and walk-ups and condos that are larger, triplexes, duplexes, then almost always there's a pantry included. But still, these are 24, 30-inch at most.
Right. I think it's more so too about like what you can put in the cabinetry that's creative, so that you can organize what you do have pretty tightly, so that you free up space. So you're not wasting space. You could free something up to kind of maybe be a pantry, or even like maybe in a dry bar area, if you have like a little space to do like another small, set of storage, like you can turn that into, kitchen rollouts or something like that. I feel like I've seen you do that. Maybe in the Menegatos, you guys did like the pantry kind of rollout doors opposite their, I think it's their dry bar, right? Or their wet bar area. Yeah.
Someone said, how does he handle an island cooktop for exhaust? So, I mean, we actually, I'm not a fan of having cooktops in the islands because island is such an entertaining connecting space for most of the types of designs that we do. And if it's a, family, young children, it's a safety issue as well at times. So you're almost always forced, obviously, to do an induction. Some people don't like induction. So there's like that whole argument and debate comes up. But if you must have one, whether it's induction or not. There's downdraft if you have that option. You can always exhaust, obviously, vertically, just downward.
Do you like the downdraft option?
I'm not. Like the telescoping ones that like come up and down. I think it's a little weird.
Yeah.
Like too futuristic looking.
Right.
Some people say it's like almost also acts like a backsplash, which could be pretty cool. But no, I'm a fan of, if you're going to do it, like a floating nice hood over it. And today, they have these like very architectural looking hoods. You can get one custom fabricated where you can have it suspended on rods, and you can almost even like, I've seen people turn it into a shelf and they put some pots there. Like, you can get very creative, but that'll probably be the only way.
Yeah,
in front of a window. In front of a window is tough. Yeah, that's something. Obviously, if you just can't put the stove anywhere else, a downdraft sound would be the best idea.
Totally. Interesting setup, especially when you have to deal with small spaces, which is most of the time here, unfortunately. Okay, Hatcliffe Holmes, actually, she had asked, do you always consider the work triangle when you're designing your clients' kitchens?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the basics. Obviously, you always have to consider the basics. But again, the word triangle was not invented by kitchen technicians. It was invented by people who use a kitchen, and that's what we really always lean back on. But often we see that triangle broken, a lot. Because it's a very linear design and it's hard to, create the perfect harmony, right, between the cleanup, the cook, and the store and all that. So, I mean, there's no right or wrong. I think, again, you have to really just step by step from storage to cleanup to how the groceries are brought into space. Like in some apartments, we've done a multi-unit where we have to like really program it as a rental. And people are like, okay, so we have no counter space. If someone's coming in with groceries, what should we do? We should probably put the fridge in the beginning so they could just get that out of the way versus naturally we will put that like tucked away towards the wall or something. So, we really just break it down as much as we can because today, you're able to kind of, have the luxury of playing around with all these different cabinet sizes and appliances, and you can get fridges that are taller but narrower. So, there's a lot that you could do, but I think we really try to, when it's a normal standard kitchen, obviously follow the triangle as much as we can.
Right. A little follow-up question too about that. So I know in some of the smaller kitchens, it's always preferred to, if you can, like panel your kitchen appliances so that you don't necessarily have to be looking at like such a break visually in cabinet and wall oven and then another cabinet and another. So is there a big difference between paneling your appliances versus, leaving them alone? And would you say that in a small kitchen is something that someone should consider?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it just makes it look completely custom, built-in, design plus, however you want to call it. But it's something that you just not always could achieve because you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? So if you were considering an aggressive kitchen budget and you're working with a stock cabinet line, they're most likely not going to offer appliance panels. It's just going to be cabinetry. So now you're forced into going into a semi-custom, and that's a higher price point, longer lead time. And then same thing on the appliances, right? Like if you are in a very competitive, aggressive price point for appliances, more than likely they're not going to have panel ready options. So it's a tricky question. It's a trick question. I think if you could afford it, the best way to answer it is this way. If you could afford it, do it. Because I think it's a beautiful look and it just looks very thought out and very built in.
Totally. Michael J. Design said I stole his question. Sorry, Mike. Okay, so that was pretty much it. I guess my last question is, how's the Sadaf?
I love it. It reminds. So I have Darling Dogs. It's a company, Whole Foods. It's like an organic Earl Grey.
Okay.
And it's very similar to it. So,
is it? Okay.
Yeah, I like this. Where did you get this?
The Middle Eastern store online. My dad.
Oh man, is this contraband?
He hasn't been back to Iran in a really long time, so no, we bought it in the U.S.
That's awesome. Tell him thanks.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Tim. This was so much fun. I appreciate it. And for those of you that had some additional questions, I think we got to everything. But where can we find you outside of Imperial KB Instagram handle?
You don't. You just go there.
Awesome. All right. Follow this man on Instagram. He's amazing. All, modern kitchen design looks awesome. Thank you very much. And enjoy the rest of your Sunday, Tim.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.